Hi, good afternoon. So I introduced myself yesterday, and so hopefully I don't need to go into any detail there. I'm Josh Schwartz, and I'm from East Wind, one of the organizing partners of the summit. I mentioned yesterday that our role here was to try and build a bridge from Israel to the United States, North America, and other countries. And one of the ways that we thought we could do that is by inviting into the summit a few companies that we know very well, who we think are doing some really exciting, innovative, and relevant things in the EdTech landscape. And I'm very appreciative that the first entrepreneur that we have an opportunity to talk to is Eric Frank, who's the CEO of Acrobatiq. Eric, can you hear me? Hello, Eric.
I can, Josh. Thank you. Good morning.
Excellent. So you should know that you're currently the best dressed person at the summit.
That's fantastic. I've never been accused of that before.
All right. So thanks for getting up so early to speak with us. I want to give you a couple minutes now to just introduce Acrobatiq, including talking about its roots and connection at Carnegie Mellon.
Sure, thanks, and good morning to everyone, and thank you for having me. Acrobatiq is a young company, 3 years old, but with a very old history. So we spun out of Carnegie Mellon University, and there's a long-standing tradition of excellence in research there in cognitive science. How do people learn? Statistical modeling, how do you computationally model various phenomena in the world? And so out of that basic research expertise was born an applied research project 12 years ago called OLI, or the Open Learning Initiative. And it was trying to answer the question, can we take what we know about how people learn from cognitive science, convert those things into design principles, and build a technology environment that allows people to leverage those design principles, build things that are effective, and that can collect data and model that data about the learner and use that information to improve the outcomes of that learner. So out of that history and that research came over 20 peer-reviewed papers indicating that students in these data-rich, well-designed learning environments were learning faster, they were learning more, they were retaining the knowledge more effectively, and they were applying it more effectively. And that's really what gave birth to Acrobatiq. Carnegie Mellon concluded that it was time to bring this idea to the world and scale, and it really should happen outside of a university in a company that had entrepreneurial spirit and reach. So Acrobatiq was born 3 years ago, and we're fundamentally a learning optimization platform company. What I mean by that is we've got a cloud-hosted platform which is basically all about improving student outcomes or enabling a university to do so. So we partner with universities. We provide a technology that allows them to create rich learning experiences that are designed on these cognitive principles that I mentioned, to collect lots of data about the learner and model that data to understand who's learning, who's not learning, what topics are being learned and what topics are not, and then to take that data and build optimization loops, bring that information back to the learner, help them make better decisions, bring that to the faculty member, help them know who needs help in their class or where in the course they could spend more time usefully to improve the course, and create adaptive elements, serve the learner what they need, when they need it, based on this information we have about them. And so that's sort of a brief synopsis, Josh, of Acrobatiq.
Thanks, Eric. Can you just describe what attracted you personally to this opportunity? You're somebody who spent many years working at a large publisher and then left to start your first EdTech company, Flat World Knowledge, which was a very innovative idea, and you've now moved on to a second one. What was it about this particular opportunity that drove you, and what are you seeking to accomplish?
Sure. You know, I'm driven by building great businesses, but I'm also mission driven, and I really do get up every day and focus on and believe that we ought to be able to increase access to great quality education all over the world, and that's going to be the greatest driver of economic growth and human progress. And the internet is such an amazing enabler of that in our lifetime. I think the challenge has been being able to scale quality. It's easy to build big fat pipes and take someone on a stage and pipe them to people all over the world, but is that really scaling educational quality? I would argue it's not. So I saw and I see data as one of the key enablers of scaling quality. If we can actually be educating large amounts of people, but we can actually understand where each one of those individuals is at every moment in time with their learning relative to the goals of what they're supposed to be learning, all of a sudden we have a very different equation. We can start to scale high quality education to lots of people by personalizing components of that education. And I think that data really for me is the key to being able to effectively personalize. So that's what really drove me to this particular space.
So theoretically, Acrobatiq could operate in different channels. It could operate in higher ed. It could operate in K-12. It could also operate in the workforce. How do you think about your business strategy and focus, trying to balance scale on the one hand with making sure that you're focused and successful as a startup where capital is a precious asset?
Yeah, that's probably in many ways for me, both the most exciting thing about startups and the most challenging thing. I think that I think of great entrepreneurs and great startups as being chefs who walk into a kitchen, look around, see what's there, and say, what can I make? As opposed to being a cook who gets a recipe, goes out, buys the ingredients, and then follows the recipe. And so I think you have to be opportunistic. You have to really be open to seeing the possibilities and shifting gears as you need to. That said, you do need to balance that with some focus and some attempt to drive a hypothesis for long enough to know that it's right or it's wrong or where it needs tweaks. So, my belief is that, we could be serving in those other markets. We may be serving those other markets at some point, but you've got to land somewhere, and you've got to land on 2 feet, and you've got to prove your product market fit and your hypothesis. You have to demonstrate success. You have to build revenue. You have to prove that you can sell. And I think that it made sense for us to do that in higher education, given Carnegie Mellon's roots, the early work from which we came, and what we believed would be the opportunity to move at a faster pace, for example, than K-12. That said, we are always thinking about land and expand as our strategy. So when and where there are opportunities to move into adjacent verticals, we will always be evaluating those.
Excellent. And my last question is, what to you is the relevance of Israel in terms of what you're doing? I know you've spent some time here. You're somewhat familiar with the ecosystem. What could Acrobatiq do with Israel, and what can Israel do with Acrobatiq?
Well, I think that, first of all, there's nothing about the Israeli higher education marketplace that would tell me that it isn't trying to solve and grapple with many of the same questions that the U.S. marketplace is trying to grapple with. How do we increasingly move online? How do we expand our footprint? How do we do that in a way, though, that continues to improve student learning experiences and outcomes, not water those things down? And so I think there's a channel opportunity certainly for Acrobatiq to partner with institutions of learning in Israel. I also think that Israel struggles with many of the same issues that other countries struggle with, which is growing homogeneity and differing preparation of learners, multiple languages, and how do you grapple with all of that effectively? And so as a microcosm, solving problems there, I think, can help us scale and solve problems in other places.
Excellent. Are we out of time? Okay. Eric, I want to thank you for joining us, and next year we look forward to having you here in person.
I appreciate it. I wish I could have been there in person, but enjoy the rest of the conference, and thanks for having me.
And a room full of people are giving you applause.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.